My name is Larry Filler. I'm Senior Vice President and Practice Leader at Environics Analytics. And today I have the pleasure of introducing Helen Dunlop and Karen Stanley. Helen is Managing Director of Research and Analytics at CAA National. And Karen is the Vice President of Marketing and Member Experience at CAA Atlantic. Today, Helen and Karen will share their extensive experience in building and leveraging customer segmentation and discuss how both a national and regional segmentation have benefited CAA's knowledge and insights about their members. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Helen and Karen.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Larry, for the introductions. Really good to see everybody in person today. It's been a while. So for the next 25 minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about CAA, who is CAA National, and why we use a corporate or what we call a national segmentation, who is CAA Atlantic, types of business problems we're solving for in the Atlantic region, and how we use EA data for segmentation purposes, and how we've integrated segmentation with our predictive models. All right, so let's talk a little bit about CAA before we dive into the conversation, the segmentation conversation, that is. CAA, as you may all know, is a not-for-profit, member-centric federation. Our membership base is comprised of a little over 6 million Canadians who look to us to provide them with emergency roadside rescues, comprehensive insurance coverage, a multitude of travel packages, and automotive products. And of course, each member takes advantage of our rich member benefits and rewards program that they're automatically enrolled to once they join as a member. We have 8 regional clubs and over 100 offices across the country serving our membership. From a strategic focus perspective, you heard me say earlier that we run under a federated model. This model, we believe, is the core reason behind our tenured success. Each one of our 8 clubs has full autonomy and independence to manage its internal affairs to best serve its membership. This, of course, enables each club to have a focus that is tailored and regional in scope, accounting for unique traits, attributes, and characteristics that are inherently come with our distinct geographies. So later, my colleague, Karen Stanley, will be sharing a regional or a club view of segmentation. But sometimes strategic focus needs to be national in scope, with a target audience that spans across the country, calling for a universal view of the marketplace and a single source of truth. And this is where I come in, and what I'll be focusing my talk on over the next few slides. All right. So let's talk about the 6 drivers of segmentation for national office. So with a strategy that is national in scope, an informed macro view of our ecosystem is absolutely critical. Producing a factual, consistent view of our customer base has a domino effect on all our business decisions, and it enables us to refine product and optimize on how we make the product available and accessible. It enables us to optimize on our channel strategy for hyper-targeted reach. It also informs our brand strategy and our pricing models. And if we do all of this and do it really well, it will solidify our position in market and how we respond to a constantly evolving marketplace. So let's talk about how segmentation has been an enabler for us at National Office. Over time, segmentation has enabled us to quantify the market opportunity. It's really difficult to set growth and acquisition targets without quantifying the size of the sandbox that we're playing in. It also enables us to establish penetration rates. It's important to quantify and define how much of that sandbox we actually have on the books. It helps us qualify the market Segment personas humanize our membership as well as that untapped potential. Segmentation also allows us to be super clear about what our appetite for growth is, and most importantly, it allows us to set attainable benchmarks that we can track and measure as we look forward. Okay, so we talked about how segmentation informs our strategic plans and business decisions. Let's dive into a discussion on methodology. There's approximately 37.7 million Canadians living in this beautiful country of ours, and being a member-centric business, serving up relevant products and services is absolutely mission critical. Segmentation enables us to take the 37.7 million Canadians and personalize and humanize them by clustering them into groups based on their common traits, attributes, and characteristics. This allows us to be more mindful and purposeful in our approach and in our reach. The segmentation or the clustering process, of course, wasn't a simple one, but the EA team got us through it seamlessly. We used a combination of data assets to complete the assessment and inform our clustering. We used EA data such as psychographic, demographic, behavioral, geographic data, and we also overlaid our first-party data. These are data assets we identified as key driver or key performance indicators within our portfolio of business. All 5 of these data assets informed our segmentation clusters or segmentation groupings. So what we ended up with are 10 clusters or 10 master segments. What you're looking at here are the over-indexing segments having higher propensity to be on our books and higher propensity to join as new members. We do well with these segments. We seem to resonate with them really well and show up with relevance. So these 5 segments are under-indexing, meaning that while they do exist within our membership pool, relatively speaking, and in comparison with the 5 segments I mentioned earlier, we are less likely to have these segments within our membership and less likely to acquire them as new joins within the portfolio. The segments challenge us, challenge our thinking, as we're always looking at value props to serve up that will allow us to reach the untapped potential and show up with relevance. All right, so operationalizing segmentation. The 10 segments play an important role in our national operating model, how we position our national member benefits and rewards program and market, how we slice data assets such as the voice of the member data, which is NPS and OSAT and such. It allows us to slice and dice web and digital data analytics and market research. And of course, it informs our creative design and brand awareness work. So with that, I'll now like to pass you over to my colleague, Karen Stanley, to offer the club perspective on segmentation.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Helen, and thank you, Larry, for the introduction. It's great to be here. CAA Atlantic has been working with Environics Analytics for at least 16 years. There's some evidence to suggest there was work even before that. So Environics Analytics really does play an integral role kind of at the core of our analytic work, and long before we had an on-site BI team and other additional resources, we've really relied on Environics Analytics over the years to do important work for us. So that has been a relationship that we've been enjoying for a long time. It began very heavily focused on acquisition efforts. So CAA Atlantic has been focused on acquisition for a number of years, and we've built out some really robust predictive modeling indexes, but that is not what we're going to focus on here today. I'm going to instead talk about how we use this segmentation work that does align with the national segmentation to bring a perspective of the Atlantic Canadian view, and I'll give you some specific examples of that. So we had done segmentation previous to the national work. We realigned our segmentation last year to coincide with the work that Helen and the national team had done to basically produce some audiences within those segments specific to the Atlantic Canadian market. And this has allowed us to integrate it into much of our strategic work, and I'm going to walk you through some of those examples now. Okay, so CAA Atlantic really is a data-rich organization. As you can imagine, being a membership-based organization, we collect all kinds of information directly from our members. We know what type of membership they have, we know what kind of cars they drive, we know what other products and services they use. So a lot of it comes from actual member-provided information when they set up their online profiles and whatnot. Partner data. So CAA leverages numerous partners in numerous lines of business, from travel to insurance, rewards, and others. And that information also feeds our data infrastructure, transactional data with our organization and those partner organizations, and then, of course, usage data. So things like recency and frequency get factored in there as well. And we couple that with the Environics analytics tools that we use to really build out a robust data infrastructure. And what we use that data infrastructure for is everything from customer profiling and segmentation that we're focusing on today, but it also impacts things like our communication and brand strategy, our targeting and channel optimization, all with a keen eye of iterative improvement. So we're, whatever we're doing, there's always that. I love the statement that was made by somebody earlier this morning about doing it and ensuring that measurement at the end. I love that we're continuing to have that conversation about measurement, because everything we do truly has, evolved to make us better. And I think ultimately that's the goal for everyone. So keeping things moving along here, two core areas that the segmentation work in Atlantic Canada has supported our strategic efforts are with two big pillars, and that's engagement and with membership growth. So in the space of engagement, we have, it's important for us to be able to upsell members to different levels of membership, to provide additional products and services, engage them in multiple lines of business, increased usage, and of course, to be able to develop new products and services that are going to speak to those segments. And another core pillar of ours is in the growth space. So for a membership organization, of course, there's always going to be some churn, and members, we have a retention rate of about 90%, which means in order for us to grow, we have to replace the 10% we lose every year and add net new. And it's, all of this work that works together to kind of make that happen for us. So in the space of growth under acquisition, things like acquiring new, younger members. An organization that at its core is 114 years old, it has naturally evolved into a bit of an aged membership base. So we've been keenly focused on how our segmentation work can help us attract and keep and engage a younger demographic. And really at its core, things like relevancy of product offering, relevancy of communication channels, all really, really important to help us reach that goal. And of course, ultimately value for member. If they're not, interacting with us, using our services, leveraging our partners, what's in it for them, right? Those will become the people that churn. So we know that engagement equals retention. Okay. So a data-driven approach to address all of this. So segmentation at the Atlantic Club is used for things like messaging. With 300,000, almost 300,000 Atlantic Canadians part of the club, managing the communications is really, really important. So segmentation helps us do that, to be able to, craft, 6 or 8 versions of things we do instead of, an unreasonable, unmanageable amount. The product offering by segment, this is another big one. We can look based on what we know about our members and how they fit into the segments, what is the next most likely product or service they're going to engage in. Based on the fact they use these partners, would be logical kind of next steps. So that's a big one. Media selection, that's been talked about a lot already today, so I won't kind of elaborate too much there, but really, really important when you're technically a not-for-profit membership-based organization, how you spend your marketing dollars is really, really important, right? So to be able to target the right audiences with the right message and the creative that's going to resonate is vital. Creative execution, and of course, identifying new opportunities. And these things really, the segmentation really does work together with the predictive modeling that we've built out to support the acquisition efforts of the club as well. So I'm going to next spend just a couple of minutes talking a little bit about what happens once you have the segmentation complete. So in our case at Atlantic, and there are some subtle nuances between the Atlantic segmentation and the national segmentation in terms of how Atlantic Canadians are represented within those clusters or segments. And what you end up getting is basically you can develop these personas and very rich, multi-pages of data that can be customized for any particular audience. So this is stuff that, us as marketers, and a couple of my colleagues are in the room here today, this is stuff that we become very familiar with and really try to understand to help us make decisions. But also it's stuff that we can share with our agency partners and with our, with our many partners, media planning agencies and the such, at sort of the level that makes sense to them. So there's the full version that our marketing team would become very familiar with, and then there's sort of skimmed down versions that might be just relevant for that particular audience. So these personas developed for each segment really paint a picture about those members in a particular segment. And, it identifies things like their life stage, media preferences, how they spend their time, how they behave, and one that I think is extremely important, what they value, right? Knowing what is truly important to somebody is so important when you're building out marketing plans so that you can, ensure you're appealing to them through the right thing. Okay, so now we're going to take a bit of a look at the specific markets in Atlantic Canada and what those look like in terms of actual size. So along the, I know it's somewhat difficult to read, but we have socioeconomic status along the left-hand side, and then their life stage along the bottom. So this literally provides you a snapshot of where these people sit in terms of their socioeconomic status against their life stage. So, for example, you can see where some of those much more mature segments that I was talking about earlier sit, and where we're also doing pretty well in that mid-life stage with those suburban growing families and rural growing families that are really, really important to us, because those are the types of segments that are interacting with multiple lines of business. They're not just joining for roadside assistance; they're joining for the travel perks and the rewards and such. So really, the Atlantic groups, these are the core target groups that we look at, and it does provide some insight into how they actually interact with us at the club level. I have just sort of added in what we consider our non-core groups. They're still groups that we monitor and measure, and they actually change over time. So a group that is not considered a core group today could very well be considered a core group tomorrow based on all of this data and what we begin to see. And we've seen that happen numerous times over the last few iterations of our segmentation, where a group that was maybe not yet core to us become core, because now the data suggests that they're to a life stage or to a usage level that it makes sense to sort of switch gears. And this slide, I wanted to just give you a snapshot of some of the various ways you can visualize your database using the segmentation. So we have many dozen, probably even hundreds of potential views that you can overlay the segments to understand your membership base based on multiple variables. So in this case that you're looking at now, we have tenure, or length of time with the club, the length of time they've been a member against their life stage. So in that top circle where you see 4 clusters, that's essentially our longer tenured members. Those are, tried and true, been with the club, kind of know who we are, kind of know what we do, and significant volumes in terms of actual number of members. The interesting part, as well, is look at where we're getting that younger demographic and where they are as far as their life stage. So it clearly paints a picture of which segments are your new members that you're going to probably need to focus more on education. You're going to need to focus more on engagement versus where your longer tenured members are sitting. This is another snapshot, and again, you can look at it. We have, rich data if you actually go through the segmentation process, but this is essentially a membership behavior view of the segments. So some of the variables that we're looking at are things like total members, so the actual penetration within our member base of that segment, the length of time they've been with the club, their membership type, so are these people purchasing Classic or Premier, makes a big difference. ERS calls, so whether or not they're actually using the core service, whether or not they have associates on their membership, so this indicates it's a family coverage, right? Again, really important from a business perspective. Unique partners, that's engagement with our rewards and loyalty program. And then online usage. So these are the members who, are most likely to have online accounts, to have our app downloaded, those sort of things, which again helps us understand, what the consumer is going to be looking for, what that member's going to, how they're going to likely interact with us. Moving right along here. So this is also, if you've done the segmentation, you've seen slides like this before, but I wanted to just kind of draw your attention to the fact that we can get right down to time spent on each type of media by segment, so we know exactly where to place our, our marketing dollars. It allows us to optimize that marketing spend and pair up the right media channel with the right message to the right audience in at least as scientific a way as we can do right now. And, even things like what charities are important and meaningful to members, comes out in this. So again, with limited funds, it helps us understand and validates where we sponsor, what charities we sponsor, and things like that. We're getting close to time, so I'm going to show you one more slide. And this slide is sort of an overlay of the segments, so our individual core segments, and how it looks from an acquisition potential perspective. So I know you probably can't read this, but what I'll draw your attention to is any of the red bars. If you see a large red bar, that is high likelihood for acquisition potential. So this is some of the magic that's helping us, achieve some of the growth rates that we've had lately. And most of this is the predictive indexing, and for the acquisition, this is, I should note, it's directed to our direct marketing efforts, so a lot of this is more in that direct space, but it clearly identifies where there's potential for growth. And this is an example of a snapshot report you can look at that sort of evolves over time, and core markets that were not on your radar before enter your radar when you've got a big red bar in that field, and it can help you identify where you should be focusing less of your efforts, because the people, potential members within that group or prospects just don't really meet the criteria or for the indexing of the predictive index model to make them a good target. So it helps you literally identify where you should be spending your money, who you should be targeting, and how those pieces can kind of fit together. With that, I'm going to invite Helen back up to the stage with me, and we will take any questions. I think we still have time for questions. Time for questions, okay. So if there are questions, great. Fire away. Yeah. Sure, and I'll repeat the question. Yeah, so his question was, they're going through the segmentation process now, they're building out personas, how frequently should you update the personas, and what kind of indicates it might be time to do that? So we at the Atlantic Club do it every time we update our segments, and there have been, I think we might do it once between. So we usually update our segments about every 3 years. So we're updating our personas at least every 3 years. If we sense there's been any shifting, then we would do it after about 1.5 years. But Helen probably has experience in that as well and may contradict my suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, Personally, I think 3 to 5 years makes good sense. I think what you'll find is as much as behavior may be changing or perceptions may be changing, fundamentally, as a core, the segment remains stable and reliable for, I would say, about a 3 to 5 year span.
Great question.
So I'm Jennifer. I'm with Environics Analytics, but I have a question that we often get asked for you both. Given as we're talking to a national organization and regional organization, you've clearly done segmentation and have integrated this to all different aspects of your business, from product development to marketing to general customer engagement. So can you give some tips and ideas on how you got that organizational buy-in?
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, it is.
You know what? I think I was fairly new to the Federation about 2.5 years ago when I joined, and I came in and I was super curious to understand, given the federated model, if there was a common thread in terms of who we're servicing and who we're showing up with relevance with. And so I went ahead and reached out to Larry and team, and we ran the national segmentation efforts. And what we found was that there was a true common thread, but there were some really unique nuances that were driven by the geography. And so when we put that in front of senior leaders and thought leaders across the Federation, it very much aligned with, there was a little bit of a pushback because regions believe that their membership is unique to their regions, et cetera, and rightly so. But when we put in front of them the national work, it very much aligned, it complemented and didn't sort of conflict with what they understood about their membership. And so given the amount of national work that we do and how important it is, for membership, I think we ended up getting, it was slow and gradual, but I think we're at strong buy-in, I would suggest, at this point in time. So it's proof in the, it's like your small wins, right? So demonstrating those small key wins, like with the rewards and loyalty program, and because it's national in scope, showcasing the value that we can inject by informing and sort of overlaying this new lens or an additional lens to our first-party data, I think was an effective way, and we just built on every little success that we had. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, it's perfect. Yep. I think we're at time.
We're good?
We're at time.
Excellent.
Okay.
Great. Enjoy the rest of the day, everyone.
You can both
Thank you.